You may or may not be familiar with the term random number generation. It's a mathematical tool widely used by mathematicians, but what about the rest of us? When would we need to create random numbers and why? This particular list here on the HR list worksheet has to do with personnel, or HR. If it were a transactional list, you might say, well, every so often what we really need to do is to review some of these, and possibly we could even do it with this list. Maybe every few months or so, what you do is pick 10 of these at random and just review the information, make sure it's correct. That's sort of a rough idea behind the concept of quality control. So how would we randomize the order of this list? Either use an existing column off to the right or just set up a new column temporarily. You don't really need a heading here. You can put in, I'll just put in the single letter, any letter R, just to make sure that it has a temporary heading. And then type the function equal rand, R-A-N-D, left parenthesis. Nothing goes between the parens. You don't have to type the right parenthesis, just press enter. In this case, I'll press Control Enter, so I don't want the active cell to move downward. And it simply generates a random number between 0 and 1. If we double-click the lower right-hand corner, this creates a whole series of random numbers. Anytime you make a worksheet change, these get regenerated all over again. If we now sort the data on the basis of what's in column L, so I'll simply go to the Data tab and click AZ. The list is now sorted. Might not look like it, but off to the left here, what order is it in? Certainly not by employee name, not by building, not by department, and ultimately not by anything. It was sorted in a random order. And along the way, the random numbers got regenerated. So it sounds like strange stuff maybe, but we were able to randomize this list. And again, I wouldn't think it would be that widely used with this kind of data, but certainly in other situations, it might be something to keep an eye on. We don't need this data anymore. Just click here, press delete. Now, different situation. I'll do this off to the right on the same worksheet. I'm setting up some sample data, possibly for checking some formulas, possibly for just working with data here. And I'd like to put in some salaries right here. It might be just in one column. It could be in a few columns. I'm selecting the cells ahead of time. I'm going to use the function called rand between. This is designed for whole numbers. And the range of these numbers will be between, let's say, 30,000, comma, and 125,000. And rather than pressing enter and using one of our top 10 tips, I'll press Control Enter here, and we will have a series of random numbers, all of which will fall between the 30,000 and the 125,000 as I press Control Enter. So the numbers as we see them right now are randomly generated, but each of these cells has that rand between function in it. So if we were to click outside of this and make an entry somewhere, I'll just type a 9 and press enter. As soon as I press enter, all those numbers change. Now, there was nothing wrong with them to begin with, and I didn't have any special allegiance to them, but every time we make a worksheet change by typing anything, those get regenerated. So we probably at some point would say, well, let's just freeze them. So how do we turn these into values? Select the data, point to any edge, hold down the right mouse button, temporarily drag this elsewhere, and then right back on top of itself. So I'm about to drag the upper edge upward and then downward. Just one row, up, down, let go of the right mouse button, copy here as values only. So these numbers now will not change. Maybe we'll format them, maybe not. It's our list of random numbers, salaries between 30,000 and 125,000. And there are all kinds of situations where when you want to create a list quickly and you just want to create some sample data, and admittedly probably do it more than most of you would, still it's really handy to use rand between. And after creating it, simply copy the list onto itself by right dragging the data into a different location and then right back on top using the right mouse button. Copy here as values only. So rand between and rand, two functions that generate random numbers.